Welcome to Grab or Stab. I'm Matt McFarland. Here we grab if it's good and we stab if it's not. Today we'll be talking about a prequel to one of the most respected horror movies of all time, The Thing from 2011. Yes, I said a prequel, not a remake, but for some damn reason they decided to just reuse the title. But before we get into all of that, let me explain how decisions are made around this place on whether or not to grab or stab a movie. First of all, it comes down to how good are the kills. Second, the characters. Third, how did the movie affect the genre? And lastly, how scary is it?
Directed by, wait, give me just a second, Matthijs van Heuningen, flawless, and written by Eric Hesserer, who also wrote the 2010 A Nightmare on Elm Street movie, Final Destination 5, and Bird Box. The Thing takes place immediately before the events from the 1982 movie and does provide answers to some of those unanswered questions from that movie. The Thing prequel is a story about a team of scientists at a Norwegian Antarctic research station who discover not only a spacecraft, but an alien creature frozen in the ice. Like its predecessor, the 2011 movie's theme revolves around human paranoia and mistrust within a small community of people, and how quickly trust can change.
It's one of those sort of universal themes of, who can we trust and what happens when we lose all of our trust in someone or we can't trust anyone around us, and how does that affect us? And that's sort of what happens in the film is you never know who is or who isn't, but no matter what, people are going to die basically, and it's going to be a horrific thing.
It's a scary thought not to know who you can trust, and that's from the beginning. The first thing we said about this version of the movie is that it's about trust, who you can trust, who you can't trust. And I think in the end of the movie we come out in we take a very clear position on trust and who you actually can and can't trust.
This movie also uses the cultural and language divide between the Norwegians and the Americans to play into that paranoia.
I think it's Aliens meets Lord of the Flies, in that when society is no longer dictating how we treat each other and the relationships, like what we do for self-preservation.
Producers Mark Abraham and Eric Newman, who had previously worked on the Dawn of the Dead remake, approached Universal about creating a prequel to John Carpenter's 1982 movie. The reason they felt a prequel was a much better route than a remake was because they felt remaking such a masterpiece would be like painting a mustache on the Mona Lisa. They also felt like there was material there for a new story to be told within the same world as the 1982 version. What happened to the Norwegians at the beginning of the 1982 movie was definitely something fans were curious about. The 1982 movie is usually pointed towards as the gold standard for practical effects. This time around, Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr. were the lucky ones trying to fill those big shoes. Most of the creature effects were filmed primarily using cable-operated animatronic robots because the director thought the acting performances would be better if they had something real to react to. The CGI was planned to just add elements to the animatronics. However, after a negative audience response from a test screening, the studio replaced most of the animatronics with full CGI in post-production. As can be seen in the behind-the-scenes footage, some incredible practical effects were used throughout the movie, and to be honest, some of the CGI used in the final cut of the movie is just god-awful. This film had quite a bit of artistic interference from the studio execs, so much so that the director had such a negative experience making this movie that he claimed to have lost his passion for filmmaking and retired for almost a decade. Filming for The Thing prequel took place over the span of 12 weeks in Canada, mainly at the Pinewood Toronto studios. The 1982 movie, which was directed by the legend John Carpenter, was a dud when it was released in theaters, but aged like a fine wine and is now considered one of the best horror movies ever made. The 2011 movie also didn't do well in theaters and ended up not even breaking even. Only time will tell though if it ages like wine or like McDonald's French fries 47 seconds after you leave the drive-thru.
So is The Thing from 2011 good enough to grab, or is it one we want to stab? Well, before we talk about all of that, we need to dig into the movie first.
And it all starts with a shot over the frozen tundra of Antarctica in the winter of 1982, as we're treated to this updated version of the iconic music from the 1982 movie. The composer this go-around is Marco Beltrami, who has a ridiculous resume, which includes creating the music for the Scream franchise, among so many other movies. We then see a snowcat off in the distance traveling across the open valley. Inside, we meet some of the Norwegian crew, Olav, Peter, and Lars. Lars being the only Norwegian that doesn't speak English. Olav appears to be listening to some kind of frequency signal while Peter tells Lars some jokes to pass the time. The group's on a mission to find an unidentified signal coming from somewhere in this area. As they find themselves right on top of the signal, the ice then collapses and they fall into a crevasse, but are lucky enough that the vehicle doesn't fit all the way through. Got any more of those jokes, Peter? As they turn on the lights, they notice a metal-looking object below, which sends us right into the movie title. Next, we meet Kate Lloyd, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Kate's a paleontologist who's listening to Men at Work while she, well, works. The song she's listening to is called Who Can It Be Now, which foreshadows what happens later in the movie. The character of Kate Lloyd was written to share similarities to the character Ellen Ripley from the Alien franchise. She's interrupted by Hank, the security guard, who sends in two men who have a meeting with Kate. The two men are Dr. Sander Holverson, played by Ulrich Thomsen, and his research assistant Adam Finch, played by Eric Christian Olsen. Dr. Sander is here because he's impressed with Kate's resume and wants to know if she's ever extracted specimens from pack ice before. She says she's worked on several cold weather digs, to which the doctor is pleased to hear. He then explains that an old friend of his from Oslo runs a geological research station in Antarctica, and 48 hours ago his team uncovered something very special. He wants Kate to come with them, but Kate's a little curious what they found.
Doctor, I'm sure you can understand that I need to know a little bit about what it is I'm being asked to dig up.
There's a structure.
A structure?
Yes.
In Antarctica.
And a specimen.
Sounds juicy enough, so Kate says she's in. Adam says he has no idea what it is, but he's worked for this guy for 3 years, and other than shopping for Argyle sweaters, he's never seen him this excited. Next, we fast forward to some incredible shots of their helicopter heading towards the research station. Inside the chopper, we meet 3 new people: pilot Sam Carter, played by Joel Edgerton, who's an American Vietnam veteran; Carter's friend and co-pilot Derek, also a Vietnam vet; and Griggs, another American and crew chief member of this helicopter transport team. Carter explains that whatever it is they're doing, they should wrap it up within a couple days because a nasty storm is on its way. The crew arrives and immediately heads to the site. Inside the claustrophobic ice that could collapse at any time, we meet Edvard, the station commander, geologist and close friend of Dr. Sander. We also meet geologists Carl and Juliet. I mean, nice to meet you and all, but we flew 10,000 miles to get here, and you know how shitty airplane food is these days, so can we get to the good stuff? Oh, that's pretty cool. The new joiners are obviously shocked at what they see, and to cap it off, Edvard tells them they've estimated this uncovered spacecraft's been here for 100,000 years. Edvard then tells them to pick up those jaws because we also need to yonder over to the survivor of the crash. They arrive at the block of ice containing the frozen little bundle of joy. Guys, do you see how big those claws are? Is this a good idea? Those claws don't look like they've evolved from cracking nuts and eating leaves. But it's all good because Kate tells them it will only take a half a day to get it out. The next day, the block of ice containing the survivor arrives at camp with Lars and one of his cute puppers riding on top. Whee! As the crew examines the block of ice inside the camp, to the dismay of Kate, Dr. Sander insists they take a tissue sample. Kate thinks this is a little impulsive and exits the room, to which Sanders follows. Kate's now starting to learn maybe Dr. Sander has a different motive here than she originally thought.
In the future, don't contradict me in front of those people again.
I just thought it.
You're not here to think. You're here to get the thing safely out of the ice.
As Jonas films the entire thing, they drill into the specimen for a sample so it can be examined in the lab. While the crew gets a little saucy and unwinds from the day, Dr. Sander informs them all that he's never seen an organism like this, and this find will change mankind forever. On top of that, every person in this crew will be immortalized as the people who made this discovery. As he's speaking though, apparently all these scientists forgot that ice melts, which it's doing right now. But fuck it, we're tipsy, so let's keep this buzz going. Derek takes a piss and decides to peek in on the guest. The dog in the kennel seems a little restless too for some reason. As Derek kicks on the lights to enjoy some alone time with their new friend, he definitely seems a little bit more uneasy about this whole thing.
Maybe in America, we just hear way more stories about alien anal probes.
Then holy shit, this thing bursts out of the ice and through the roof. Derek immediately sprints back to frantically let the party know the frozen thing is now the escape thing.
It ain't a damn joke, man! The freaking thing's alive!
He's friggin' serious, man. The others head over to the ice block to see for themselves. They then decide to split up and search the entire camp in small groups in hopes they track it down. One group comes across the dog kennel to find it's full of blood, but no dogs. Outside, Olav and Henrik hear something underneath one of the buildings. Uh-oh. Also, why don't you guys have any weapons just in case? As they move closer, they spot the slimy bastard who isn't too happy to see them and bursts through Henrik's chest, pulling him backwards towards itself. The others arrive and it looks like Henrik's being eaten. They open fire, which doesn't do much. Ultimately, someone makes the executive decision to fry this bastard. Back inside, the crew mourns the loss of their friend. While this is going down, Dr. Sanders explains they still need to examine the remains because of the importance of its discovery. The others don't like the idea, and Sam thinks they should completely destroy it. Olav, the fellow without a hole in his chest, did survive, but is in pretty bad shape, so the Americans are going to fly him to a nearby military hospital. They also mention that they're going to tell them the truth about what happened, no matter how crazy it sounds. Edvard, the station commander, decides they will examine the species. After the doc cuts into this crispy crab looking bastard, they pull it apart and notice Henrik inside of some steamy amniotic sac. Kate points out that Henrik's skin almost seems new. As they further examine the creature, Kate's confused because she finds a titanium plate as well. Carl explains that Henrik went to Argentina last year to get a broken arm fixed, but Kate's wondering why is it now outside of his arm. Kate then examines a sample of Henrik's tissue and she learns what we already know if you've seen the 1982 movie, that the cells are not only alive, but the alien cells attack the human cells and then imitate them, or as we like to say, assimilate. But because Adam's kind of a dumbass, he seems skeptical and isn't quite sure. The helicopter crew gets ready to take Olav to the military hospital. As they prepare for takeoff, Kate notices blood-covered tooth fillings on the floor in the bathroom. She also glances over at the shower and notices someone's been using her blood-colored pomegranate-scented body wash again, and she's pissed. Kate then suddenly realizes not only the reason Henrik's titanium plate was loose, but that these fillings are also here because when the alien creature absorbs its victims, it spits out anything that isn't organically a part of the body. She's also now pretty certain this creature can perfectly imitate another life form. So if they take Olav to a new group of people and one of the passengers isn't who they appear to be, that could be really, really bad. You know, possibly even destroy the human race kind of bad. Okay, I might have jumped a little farther, but the point is she needs to stop this helicopter from leaving. So Kate runs outside to flag them down in hopes they stop and land. Sam decides something's clearly wrong and they should land. Olav's not a big flight guy and starts shaking pretty bad. Oh no, is Olav one of— Jesus, Griggs, that ain't fucking normal, man! Come to find out, Olav's probably just shaking because he has to witness this really bad sequence of CGI. As Griggs' face rips apart, his chest also explodes, exposing a bajillion little killer spaghettis. The helicopter then spins out of control and crashes off in the distance. Next, Colin here is unable to get a hold of anyone on the radio because of the interference from the incoming storm. And by looking at the map, the crew determines it's pretty much impossible to get where the chopper crashed without another helicopter. Kate then goes back to check the showers and notices someone cleaned up the body wash. Edvard and Sanders then argue about the logical next steps. Dr. Sanders doesn't want them to bring in outside help for fear they will lose the discovery, but Edvard wants a few of them to take a snowcat to the nearest base to get help. Kate, though, stops this from happening. She tells them why it's a bad idea and why she flagged down the helicopter. Sander probably already knows most of what she's about to say, though, because he was the first person to examine a sample of the alien earlier. Kate tells them about Henrik and the alien's cells, how they're still alive and the aliens were trying to copy his. All right, Adam, can you back me up on this?
Is that true?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what we saw. I mean, we saw something.
Okay, do you mind just heading off to die now? Thanks. Okay. Kate then tells them that this thing probably already morphed into a full human by now. She also tells them about the tooth fillings and the blood in the shower. Regardless, Edvard and the others still decide to leave. After they walk out though, Juliet pulls Kate aside. Juliet tells Kate that she doesn't want to get anyone in trouble, but did notice that she might have seen Colin coming from the showers holding something that could have cleaned up the blood. She also says that if Kate wants to stop them, she knows where they keep the keys for the vehicles. They enter a storage room together and Kate searches for the keys. As she does, Juliet begins to turn and then attacks Kate. This part's interesting though, because it kinda appears that Juliet might still have her consciousness as the creature rips her apart. Her character kinda seems shocked and freaked out while it's happening. By the way, Kate said run, Carl. Should've listened. He did. After Carl gets gouged, the others come to help. Fortunately, our pal Lars smartly grabs the flamethrower. They open the door to find the assimilation process well underway with Carl. Looking like MacReady from the '82 version, Lars likes his aliens well done. Hoping that it will help get rid of it for good, they decide to also burn it outside.
It attacks its prey, copies it perfectly, and then hides inside it. Waiting.
Kate then explains that they can't leave because the spread will only get worse.
So what do we do with any virus?
Quarantine. We isolate it, and then we kill it.
Sound familiar? Sander then comes up with the idea to expose uncontaminated blood to the cells of the creature to create a reaction. Sander and Adam will handle that part while Kate and Lars disable the vehicles so nobody can leave. As Kate and Lars dismantle the vehicles, Lars also shows Kate where the grenades are.
Oh, those will be fun later.
During this portion of the movie, you can feel the paranoia start to build within the group as each person starts looking at each other a little differently. All of a sudden, though, the group sees two people walking towards the camp. It's the Americans Sam and Derek, who either survived the chopper crash and somehow hiked all the way back or have now become the Thing. Peter here thinks there's no way a human could have survived that and wants to burn them both. However, Kate insists they lock them up until the test is ready. After locking up the Americans, Kate and Lars notice part of the camp's on fire. Turns out it's the lab where Sander and Adam were preparing the test. We see a gas can on the floor and immediately know the test was sabotaged. Colin accuses Adam, which he isn't too happy about, but calm down fellas, Kate has another idea. Then, similar to the 1982 iconic blood test scene, Kate decides to conduct her own test. She decides to get everyone in the rec room and examine whether or not they have tooth fillings, because this creature can't imitate inorganic material. Not a perfect fix, but it'll help sort things out for now. Lars and Peter are clear, so is Jonas. But since Adam, Colin, Sander, and Edvard either floss or like to kill and assimilate people in their free time, Kate and the others make them separate from the group. Next, it's time to test the American pilots.
I will say I don't mind this scene within the storyline, but it's just way less epic than the 1982 blood test scene.
Jonas and Lars head out to get the Americans, but as you could have probably guessed, they escaped. As they look for them, Lars gets snagged. Jonas runs back to alert the group, and chaos ensues. They hear a window break and know it's now gotten back into the camp. Flamethrowers in hand, they go to look and run into Sam and Derek. The Americans tell them to put the weapons down, but Peter still decides to attack. But just before he does, Derek shoots him in the shoulder, head, and flamethrower tank.
I just can't wait to press that trigger and toast somebody in it or shoot him. Watch that blood splurt out. Yes, this is great. Keep a very serious face though. We're actors. We're doing a craft. Bang, bang, bang. Yes, lovely. Can I do another one?
The fuel from the tank leaks into the flame and explodes, badly hurting Edvard. Sam tells them to pick him up and go into the rec room. While they do, Kate warns Sam that not all of them are human. Right on cue, as Edvard's arm tears off and mutates into some face-sucking spider creature that Jonas can't get off. It gets a hold of his face and starts the assimilation process. As this is going down, Sam's flamethrower isn't working and Edvard's body is now shooting out killer tentacles, one of them tearing into Adam and then Derek. Edvard then morphs into this upside-down spider thing and absorbs itself into Adam. By the way, Jonas, you doing all right over there? I don't think that's what the doctors meant when they told you to wear your sleep apnea mask. Kate knows there's no going back for Jonas, so she burns him and then Derek as well. The Edvard-Adam combination, I'm going to call Advam from now on, has now left the room, I assume to finish morphing itself. Sam then arms himself with an axe and the two go and look for it. While they look for it, we see Advam here find Dr. Sander hiding in a room and it assimilates with him as well. So, well shit now the name's got to change again. Alright, from here on out, we'll call it, Sadvammer. You know, a combination of all three names, I guess. Sam and Kate then get attacked by another piece of this creature that was running around, which Sam cuts in half with his axe. Then as it tries to morph back together, Kate burns it. If that axe in the door looks familiar, it's because it's the same axe MacReady finds towards the beginning of the 1982 movie when they explore the Norwegian camp. As the two continue looking for the creature, Sadvammer then pops through the glass to attack them. Sam gets away and ends up hiding in the kitchen. It still finds him, and just as it's about to attack him, Kate's there to torch it, and Sam makes a hell of a nice little move to jump over it. Sadvammer then bursts through the wall where they completely torch it outside, which also tips its cap to the 1982 movie, because if you remember the two-headed thing they find in the beginning, it turns out to be Sadvammer. But just as the barbecue's finished, they notice someone's stolen a snowcat and is trying to get the hell out of here. Oh shit, it's Dr. Sander. So, he is an alien, but he didn't technically mold into Edvard and Adam, so the crispy boy on the ground is back to being called Advam. Sam, for some reason, tells Kate not to go after him, though he says it's because it's too cold and he's got nowhere to go. Kate disagrees and they go after him. After sharing some "I'm still not sure if you're gonna assimilate me or not" looks, the two arrive at Dr. Sander's destination, his spaceship. As they walk on the ship towards the open hatch, the ship turns on. They run from what looks like some sort of aerodynamic system, but Kate falls inside the ship. Inside, she wanders around admiring its interior design, but she does have a grenade in one hand, so I don't think she's planning on leaving this place as is. She enters what appears to be the cockpit, which has a large holographic, multicolored Tetris-like thing towards the middle of the room. In the original cut of the movie, what Kate actually sees here was the body of a dead pilot of the ship, but the studio vetoed this idea and the Tetris structure was added in post-production over the pilot. As she looks at it closer, something moves in the shadows behind her. It's Dr. Sander. As this giant bastard moves towards her, Kate then escapes through a tunnel this chunky fella can't fit in. As she grabs the grenade, it pulls her back to the main room. And just before it devours Kate too, she tosses the grenade right into its mouth, blowing this fucker away. Then as the main room of the craft explodes, the propulsion system powers down. The music fades to a slow violin as Kate and Sam exit the dig, wondering what they do now. Sam proposes they head for the Russian station about 50 miles away. As they prepare to get in the snowcat, Kate looks at Sam with a touch of wariness.
You know how I knew you were human? When you showed it back at base?
No.
Your earring. It was your other ear.
Kate now fixes the flamethrower right on Sam, convinced he's the thing. Sam pleads for his life, but it's not gonna matter as Kate torches him. Sam's toddler creature scream pretty much confirms Kate was right. Also keep in mind though, if it's true that the creature can't replicate inorganic things, then that would answer one of the biggest questions from the 1982 movie. See Childs there at the end? He still has his earring in his right ear. Kate then gets inside the other snowcat where I assume she contemplates the crazy-ass past few days as we fade to black, giving us another ambiguous ending. Was Kate also the thing? While the credits roll though, we hear a helicopter. It's a Norwegian chopper which arrives at the destroyed Norwegian camp to the iconic Thing soundtrack. The heli pilot, Matthias, exits the chopper, wondering what the hell happened here. As he calls out for any survivors, we find out the man from the 1982 movie with the slashed wrist and throat was Colin, the radio operator. We then see a rifle point out of the camp which shoots at Matthias. Lars is alive, hell yeah! Lars then approaches Matthias, telling him to open his mouth. Well, the good news is it looks like he's got his tooth fillings, but the bad news is one of the dogs then jumps from a window and runs away as Lars shoots at it. Lars then says that's no dog. The two start the helicopter and begin the chase. And here is how we find out the origin of the dog hunt at the beginning of the 1982 movie, which officially ends the 2011 prequel.
So that wraps up the 2011 The Thing prequel. Is it good enough to grab, or is it one we want to stab? Well, let's find out. First up are the kills. There were 13 deaths in this movie, which is actually one more than the 1982 movie. But as we know, most of the practical effects of the animatronics were all covered up pretty much with CGI in the final cut of the movie. Hopefully one day we'll be able to see that kind of earlier cut of the movie where they use the practical effects. Seeing the behind the scenes footage and stuff, the practical effects actually look incredible. The kills in this movie were okay, they weren't bad. I mean, there was some CGI that was god-awful, but overall the kills, they were okay, not great, not bad, but there wasn't really any memorable kills. Second are the characters. I did like Kate's character as the main protagonist and kind of final girl in the storyline. She was smart, but also a badass who mainly made smart decisions throughout the movie. Sam's character I thought was pretty good as well. There were definitely some forgettable characters in the cast in this movie, and I didn't like the characters as much as that blue-collar cast in the 1982 movie, but the acting was pretty good and the characters were pretty good, so I did enjoy that part of the movie. Third, the impact the movie had on the genre. Now, this movie did have some massive shoes to fill. It didn't end up breaking even, which is never a good thing. Overall, I would probably have to say that this movie did not have a positive impact on the genre or this franchise. And fourth, how scary was the movie? Now, obviously this is a supernatural movie, and a lot of people get more scared if the movie's about kind of that killer next door type of a feel, like a Scream movie. but I think we can all definitely relate to the paranoia and the mistrust in this movie. Also, just the isolation and the cold as the setting for this movie, I think makes for a perfect sci-fi horror movie. So I would definitely say this is a scary movie. And with all that said, I might surprise you guys here, but I'm gonna go with a grab on The Thing from 2011. Now, I'm not here to compare this movie to the 1982 movie. This isn't a remake. Technically, these movies didn't take place at the exact same point in time either. Yes, I think we would all agree they should have renamed the movie, at least changed it slightly. But just the concept of this movie, you've got an Antarctic research base that's cold, that's isolated, with an alien on the loose that's assimilating and killing people. Like, I'm in for that. Come on now. I didn't like the overuse of CGI, which was pretty bad at times, yes. The characters in this movie were good, but not great like they were in the 82 movie. I did really like the reverse engineering they did with the 1982 set for this movie. They did a great job with the details and all that. They also answered a lot of the unanswered questions in this movie from that 1982 movie, which you guys know I'm a big fan of. But overall, I had a good time with this movie. And if you're a sci-fi horror fan, I definitely recommend checking this one out. And there you go, that wraps up The Thing from 2011. Be on the lookout for new Grab or Stab episodes which come out every single Friday. But in the meantime, I'm Matt McFarland, and you just finished watching Grab or Stab. Thank you everyone for watching another video. If you enjoy horror content like this, or just horror content in general, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications as well. All of my social media links will be down below in the description if you want to go and check me out over there. Be on the lookout for new Grab or Stab episodes coming out every single Friday. But anyways, everyone, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.